G'day folks, I'm David House. I'm joining Campbell Venning, the director of the Property Factory, and today we're going to talk about the Karamu project at the Riccarton Park Racecourse. So Campbell, you want to just jump straight in and tell us, what is this project, what's the master plan, and what's special about it?
Right, yeah. So what's special about it is, number one, the location. Real estate is always about location first, and this is a brand new subdivision smacked right in the middle of very, very solid, safe, long-term suburbs. They've been there for a long time. Riccarton, Yoldhurst surround this location, and not only is that good, but since the earthquakes in Christchurch, the infrastructure spend on this western side of Christchurch has been really high. And it started with Rolleston, but what's happened since then, since Rolleston was created, or not created, but it was a designated inland port not long after the earthquakes, and a huge amount of housing has been put in there since. All the infrastructure spend that's gone on out to the west has now benefited this location, because major arterial routes from the north and from the west border this location. So whilst you're only 10 minutes to the CBD, or less than 10 minutes to the airport, 5 minutes to Canterbury University, you're also right on the junction to go south to Queenstown or Ashburton or Wanaka, north to Blenheim or Nelson or Picton, or North Canterbury. So this location's really powerful because it's an old area with brand new stock being put in, and you're basically, it's not like a new greenfield subdivision. You're tapping into the existing infrastructure, from schools to cafes to bus routes to airports. And on top of that, you've had all this new infrastructure spend on roading. So you can get everywhere quickly from this place.
And, although it's, the focus here is the investor story, we have property that backs onto parks or reserves or has a view across a valley or some other great vista. I mean, where would you say this sits, given the backdrop on this historic racecourse, and have this whole green area behind you going on in this activity every second or third week as well? I mean, how do you see that?
I've seen it before, where you've got, we're looking at a project. We're looking at a project at the moment in Auckland, and there's a bowling green next to it. But this is a race course, and it's huge. So, and it's to the southern side of the southeast and south side of the project. But I guess that's cool, and it's neat to have, and it's a unique aspect to it. I guess at the same time, though, the fundamentals of the suburb and the proximity of the suburb to all of the things I said before is key. Mm-hmm. I think it's a selling point, though, David. I think it's people like having open space, green space. It's been a theme of the whole CBD rebuild in the green frame. And there are a lot of existing parks and recreational areas around this area anyway. There's also a golf driving range next door. So it's got a lot of those nice to haves. And more importantly, I think I said this to you before, the price point that we're selling these new houses for is actually at the same level, if not lower, than what second-hand housing is selling for in the same location. And the only reason that's happened is that a developer's gotten this land at a price that's made it affordable to build these houses, and it's like having a new car that's cheaper than a second-hand car. So it's crazy, but it's true. And that comes down to infill building and development and timing of the market. So, I believe that the people that buy these properties will look back and think, man, that was cheap, because they're getting the latest and greatest at a second-hand rate, which is kind of crazy, but it happens.
Well, one of the interesting things that came out of the research was, it's a 5-stage development, but the council's mandated as part of the consent that a third of the stock has to be priced at or below 550. So part of the crazy thing is it's opening up brand new stock for investors where their yields and cash flows works. And ironically, some of the valuations are actually above 550 already, but they can't be sold above 550 because of the council requirement from an affordability point of view. I mean, is that something we're going to see more of in New Zealand with this affordability focus with a proportion of the stock?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I hope so. I really do. I mean, we've got a housing crisis. We need more houses. We need more landlords to provide housing to people that can't afford housing. This is an example where it's not subsidised by council. It's dictated that the pricing can't be any above a certain price. So from that perspective, the developers sensibly designed the right product for the location. And as such, the land acquisition in this area is low enough that they can be building houses with 5s in front of them as opposed to, and 4s in front of them as opposed to 6s and 7s and 8s. And that's just wonderful. And it should be the same in every project. It doesn't always happen this way. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the master developer. And the land developer here in this instance was Ngāi Tahu, who are one of the best land developers in Christchurch in the South Island. They are fantastic to work with. We have been in a number of subdivisions that they've built. They don't build them well, they build them really well. They are a great land developer. And that has a huge impact on resale and revalue at the other end. So Ngāi Tahu are the land developer, the curbing and channeling, the footpaths, the lights, the parks, the green spaces, they just do it well. Secondly, coming back to the location, we have recently relocated to Christchurch. We're from Christchurch 30 years ago or whatever it was, just under 30. The infrastructure roads that are going in around the city are amazing. You can get from North Canterbury into the airport out of rush hour in less than 15 minutes. It's a fast city to get around. It's an easy city to get around. Now, if you are travelling first thing in the morning or when schools get out and you're trying to get across the city, it's a different kettle of fish. By New Zealand standards, it's still quick. But the one thing about Riccarton and Yoldhurst is that even in rush hour, you're talking such short distances that it's fast. You'd bike to university from here. You wouldn't drive. You'd even bike to the airport. Bike into the city. Christchurch is a flat city, an easy city to bike around. So people bus, they Uber, they Lime. I can't central this location is. It's new housing in a subdivision that is minutes from the airport, schools, bus routes, CBD. It's just fantastic. So that's quite rare. That is rare. That's in 2019.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the exciting thing about this stock is we had 16 townhouses originally. There's 14 available, 2 have sold already. There's $17,000 to $32,000 below valuation. I mean, what's been the driver for the developer to place all of the stock with the Property Factory at those discounts?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, we went along and looked at it. They rang us and said, hey, we hear you sell off the plan. We hear you've got a lot of investors. We hear you can help us move this. This product is actually perfect for first home buyer, second home buyer, and investors. And I hope we get a mixture of all three in there. But time will tell. Investors will probably snap it up. That's what typically happens because they're the most informed. Why have they given it to us, or why have they asked? Have they come to us? One, they know we understand the economics long term, and for them, this is the first of many projects in this location. Secondly, they're one of the first builders that we've worked with who really are looking at the home, the show home model and thinking, it doesn't work. We buy a bit of land and we've got to spend 9 months building a show unit. It's crazy. How can we get to market faster? How can we get to market sooner? And they've been doing some testing and measuring of different things in the technology space and the 3D space. But the reality is they want to be a builder, and they're really good at it. They've got their model down packed. They've been doing it for a long time. Bainbridge is a very well-known name and long-standing name in Christchurch. The people that are in there are all experts, and they're saying, you know what, Property Factory, we don't want to be sales and marketing people. That's your job. And that's where it started. So they came to us because we know real estate and we know investment property and we know off-the-plan sales. And so, yeah, we've been working with them on a plan to bring our skill sets together, and it'll be the first of many with Bainbridge Homes.
That's great. And so next question is, say I'm an Auckland-based investor or Wellington-based investor, and I've got good equity, I've had good growth in the market, and I know Christchurch had the earthquake 8 years ago, and I haven't invested in Christchurch, but I'm thinking about it. What do I need to consider or be aware of if I'm taking that first step into the Christchurch market in this new environment?
Yeah, just the rules. Christchurch has a set of rules that were imposed on the city post-earthquake around land classification. You've got TC1 land, TC2 land, TC3 land. You've got foundational solutions which that you have to meet for council. You have a number of new categories of real estate that as is where is. You can buy an as is where is house in Christchurch, and that's basically a house that comes with no insurance. It's broken and needs to be fixed. So what do you need to know about Christchurch? It's a technically advanced market on some levels, and it's a minefield of information and risk on other. It's one of the reasons it's cheap, because people haven't got their head around it and they're scared. Now, the thing with new stock in Christchurch, it's the safest possible property in the country, because you've got the latest foundation technology and solution. You've got brand new land that's been fixed, land with liquefaction that's been replaced with new land. You know, they've started again here. And what you're getting is the latest technology in the house, the latest technology in the land, the latest technology in the foundation. And in areas, and a lot, because there's so much destruction in the 2011 earthquakes, you're also getting into locations that otherwise would be a lot more expensive. So if you're a North Islander or even a Central Otago person thinking Christchurch or still a construction site, you're sort of right, but that's also a reason to get in now, because it's only going one way, in our opinion. So it's, in our opinion, the most obvious place to invest in New Zealand based on price, where it's at with the rebuild and where it's heading. It's not the only place, but we think it's a really sensible place, and that every investor in New Zealand should have Christchurch property in their portfolio.
Okay, and if you look at Christchurch now, 8 years on, some of the commercial buildings and the architecture that's gone in is stunning. It's a thriving metropolis already. If you look at the new cafes and restaurants and bars, and some of those are really well classed in terms of the fit outs. And with 5 years, next 5 years, the outlook is 13,000 more people moving to Christchurch. So we're talking maybe 5,500 new dwellings. So I'm thinking of investing in Christchurch. Where do you see the opportunities to invest in terms of the radius to the city centre, I guess, from a specific point of view? Because Christchurch or Canterbury is a big area. Equally, you could charge into greenfield areas and go sideways for 5 years if you get your timing wrong, or you're late in a later stage in existing development.
Look, in the last 8 years, we've seen short periods of oversupply in certain locations. That's just happened. It has. We've also seen ludicrous rents, $1,200 a week for a 2-bedroom unit, when there was such a shortage when so many houses got destroyed. It's starting to level out now, and the locations are growing at an easy rate, or a nice rate. It's not hyper growth. So I think in terms of, we do it very quickly. Some locations do not make sense to put investors in. There's no rental market there. There are a lot of those locations in Christchurch. So this is not one of them, not at all. There's lots of schools around this place. There's university. Even getting to Lincoln University, the second university in Christchurch, is not that far. So as a place, as a location that's safe, how do you find out about the other ones? Well, again, we've got stock, or we've had stock across the country and the city. We are about to launch other stock across the city in Christchurch, and for different reasons, and for good reasons, and for economical reasons. So everyone's different, as I said in previous videos with you, David, and everybody's financial circumstances are different. The price point for this area for a brand new house is low comparative to some other locations. These are 2 and 3 bedroom housing. So from how do you know which is the right place and property for you? It comes down to circumstance, and it comes down to should you buy a house, an apartment or a townhouse? What's the price point that you're sitting around? What yield do you need? How much equity do you have? So it's not just a simple, well, this makes sense for everybody. And we'll help you, and we'll put you onto the right, we'll help you get to the right advisor who can make those decisions with you. And we'll do it at a high level, but we'll put you in touch with the right people at a lower level.
Okay. And for investors who are looking at this and looking at, land sizes of 200 to 300 square metres, which, let's face it, maybe 20 years ago, you'd see that in Sydney and Melbourne and say, well, that's not for New Zealand. Are we seeing this kind of perfect hybrid model developing where, with the affordability of larger sections being an issue now for investors with making the yields work, but maybe you don't want apartments or some of the body corp issues that come with those, is the townhouse, the 2 to 3 bedroom size on 200 to 300 square metres section size, is that kind of the perfect kind of hybrid solution for the investor that wants a piece of land, but doesn't want to have the serviceability and challenges around lower yields and bigger blocks?
Well, Christchurch is full of parks and gardens. It's a garden city. And, the average quarter acre Kiwi size section is the thing of the past. It has been for a long time. 200, 300, 400 square metre sections. 400 is going to be a big section going into the future. New Zealand is downsizing. Family-wise, they're downsizing. House size, they're downsizing. Land size, they're downsizing. So, yeah, this is the norm. And it's not just Christchurch. It's right across the country. And it's affordable. If you want a 400 metre section, it's going to cost you more than a 200 metre section. And if you're living in a subdivision with a kid's playground and a park next door, well, great news. You don't have to mow the lawns there. And as a landlord, the more land you've got, the more chance that the tenant's not going to look after it, or that you have to look after it and factor in. So, it's one of the reasons that townhouses are such a successful investment product. And more so now becoming a homeowner product, because people can lock and leave. People don't have to spend their weekends on the lawnmower or in the garden. So it's a cultural shift. We're downsizing.
That's great, and your rental returns coming off your building rather than your land too, in terms of what you're offering. So if you get the right configuration, more bedrooms and less land makes sense. So the one thing that excites me about this, Campbell, is it's stage 1 in a 5-stage development. And what does that typically mean for investors who come in at this early stage at a discount at stage 1?
Yeah, I've said previously that developers typically will discount they'll discount the highest. The biggest discount will happen at the beginning and right at the end if it's a big project. This is quite a small project, and they've got other land. They've got land in other locations around this area. And this is their first one, and it's in this area. Sorry, in the subdivision. And yeah, we've got them right at the beginning, and they've said, look, we're motivated. We want to get on building these. So here's the best we can do in terms of discount. And I have an arm wrestle with these people situations. I push back. I go, you sure? Wait, if we're doing 12 or 14 houses for you, show us the money on the discount to acknowledge that. So they've given us on some of the 3 bedrooms, we've got $30,000 plus discounts. So it's that's real equity. And by the time they're built, it wouldn't surprise me if it's gone up further, because we see that a lot with greenfield subdivisions.
Okay, well, lastly, we're talking about 2-bedroom stock starting at $518,000 on rents of $430 to $450 a week. Talking about 3-bedroom stock starting at about $533,000 on rents of $520 to $550 a week. How can somebody find out more about the project? What should they do next?
Look, if they go to our website, we've got a lot of due diligence, a lot of research, a lot of anecdotal information that will help you understand it. If you're a North Islander, these prices will be crazy to you because they're so low. And they are real, and it is for brand new stock, and it's off the plan. It's turnkey. You're only putting 10% down. There's no progressive builds. The builder is funding the construction, and we will help you then get the right tenant. But I'd imagine this location there'll be a queue of tenants because there's so little new housing around this area. So you're getting the shiny new widget on completion. So how can they get help with us? Look, click on the email, go through to our website and read up about it. We've got a process that you've got to go through if you want to secure one of these. We're doing some events next week, so we're in pre-launch at the moment. Only our members are getting access to this information, access to the properties at the moment. At the end of next week, the wider database will be able to secure one of these, put their foot on it, and then do their further due diligence. But they're pretty limited. We've only got a few, and we're promoting this through the agency world as well. So we're going to first home buyers through the retail agents here in Christchurch. So if you're an Auckland or North Island investor, get in quick, put an expression of interest in, and see if it's right for you, because it might not be, but you're better to find out. You better put your foot on something to find out. Otherwise, I don't think these will be here for long, David.
That's great. Thanks, Campbell. So head over to thepropertyfactory.co.nz, sign up as a wholesale member. It's free, and you can dive straight into the project information. So folks, thank you for checking this out, and thanks, Campbell, for your time on this one, and we'll catch up with you on the next project.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, and safe weekend, everybody, and we will look forward to seeing you at one of our events. Thank you.
Cool.